Now, back to Coastal Living on KZTV.
Welcome back, everyone. So people nowadays are wanting to know more and more about their ancestors and where they came from. But if you don't want to spend a lot of money on the DNA kits, how do we get started? Well, we have Ralph Tobias here, who is a family history instructor, to talk more about it. Welcome, Ralph.
Okay, well, genealogy is the most popular hobby in the world. Everybody wants to know where they came from. You wonder, why is it important to learn something about our ancestors, people that lived many years ago? We've got about 8 billion people that live on the earth today. Everybody has hopes, dreams. What did you want to be when you grew up? What was your favorite hobby, your favorite color, those kind of things. Well, think about the people that lived many years ago. Many of them are not even names on paper. That's sad. They were people just like us. They had dreams, hopes, those kind. And what we're trying to do is bring the dead to life.
Absolutely.
And in the process, we learn a lot about ourselves.
Definitely. I think it's important to not only understand the culture and the history of that, but where your family came from. Did you have a relative who was in a war, or was it actual native here before everybody came over to the U.S.? So there's so many questions to ask. Is it difficult? I know we have a lot of technology now. We have the Ancestry and the 23andMe, but is it difficult to sort of plan out and detail your family tree?
That's a really good question. It used to be a lot more difficult. You used to have to go to the place, to the church or the cemetery, and get the information. But now there's so much available online. You could literally, especially nowadays where it's difficult to go out, sit at home on your computer, and the time will go by so quickly. You could spend hours, and what you can find is amazing. I've got to tell you something, Clarissa. During the Super Bowl, I went to a friend's house, and he didn't know very much about his family at all. So around halftime, I missed the entire halftime show because I sat down, I said, okay, I want to show you something. I got my computer out, I went to Ancestry.com, and by the end of halftime, we had him back to the 1400s.
No way.
Because of the information that's available.
Okay, well, I'm going to have you sit down with me and work this out, because I did 23andMe, and it was very interesting to find out that I have a lot of Southern European, Portuguese blood. Nothing that's ever come up. I thought my family was from Mexico, and that's kind of where it ended. It's not. It goes back to that, and we recently took a trip on our honeymoon to the Dominican Republic, where we went down this history trail, and I sort of put some pieces together and realized, well, maybe we came over when the Europeans and the Africans came over to the U.S., and that would correlate with the amount or the percentage of DNA that I have from Southern Europe. So I'm going to have you sit down with me and confirm that now that we only need halftime to do it.
The pressure's on.
Although you missed a lot. I'm going to have to show you that YouTube video. Anyway, so where do we get started? For somebody who's never done this before, you mentioned there's an old school, there's a new school way. Where do we start?
The way to start is with yourself. Sit down and start writing your own personal history. And now that can seem like a daunting task, but what I did is I sat down and did bullet points. I thought back to the years of my life, and there's nothing from year one, nothing from year two. Actually, there is something from year two. But I sit down and I just put bullet points down of these different years of my life.
Okay.
Then I go back, and those bullets will remind me. They trigger your memory. So I'll think, okay, my arm went through the washing machine wringer. What was that experience like? I can show you the scar. So I asked my mother about it, because obviously she has more information, and I just detail it then, but I always start with bullet points.
Okay.
Then you want to talk to the oldest person you know that knows your family. It could be a relative, it could be a friend.
Okay.
Talk to the oldest person and have a recording device. Drain their brain. But don't ask them just like names, dates, and places. Ask them those important things like, what did you want to be when you grew up? What was your dad like? What did he do for a living, and why did he do it? Ask them everything you can, because if it's the oldest person, they're not going to be around much longer.
Exactly.
Once they're gone, the information up here is gone.
True. Yes, especially all the details that you mentioned. And I think whether you're recording or even documenting it in a book or a journal, I feel like that's even more something that can carry down into the family, for the kids to open it and maybe find that as a project to explore later with a little bit of the homework done for them already. Okay, so what's the next step? You have a favorite resource that many of us wouldn't think to use.
I love the newspapers because they contain so much information. I brought some examples here. The obituary is one of the most overlooked resources in the world.
Interesting, okay.
Here's an example of my great-grandfather. I knew my great-grandfather Conrad, but look at what's in this obituary. You've got his name, where he lived, his children, his spouse, what he did for a living, where he was born, the church he attended, fraternal organizations. It's amazing. And then if you go to the next slide, sometimes with obituaries, you get photographs. Here's one of my ancestors, a photograph.
Amazing.
And you find out, oh, that's where I got that nose. That's why my ears are so big.
It makes sense. All right. And this is great because we, still libraries are still around, so we have access to that in the old news articles.
This is James Benjamin Conrad and his wife. The thing that's great about this is it says in the third paragraph that they were driven to their wedding in the oldest car, the first car that was built in my hometown.
Amazing.
So it's cool stuff you learn. You learn all these little tidbits of information.
Absolutely. Well, Ralph, thank you so much for taking the time to do this segment with us today.